Hi everyone and welcome back. As promised, here is my reflection of my second round in this winter series. After Sherborne, I knew some things had to be tweaked within my putting and within my swing, which I'm happy to say I managed to work on in between the events. I will also note that we had to play off mats in this event, and that did take a little bit of getting used to, but that's no excuse for the first few holes of my round. So as promised, we're going to use the same tools for reflection, so Tiger 5 and then into the stat table, and then we'll round it up with a little bit of reflection. So let's move into the Tiger 5 to start with. So the Tiger 5 should be on your screens now, and big improvements from Sherborne to Knighton in certain areas. So 2 less doubles around Knighton, shouldn't be having any doubles at all really, and over the course of 2 rounds having 4 doubles is incredibly destructive. There's no real way back from that scoring wise. But I also improved in bogeys on 5s in this one. I should have birdied both the 5s at Knighton. They're playing really short, but still didn't bogey them, didn't make silly mistakes on those 2 holes, which was nice. 3 putts increased around Knighton, but I think that's because my footage to the pin increased. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's how it felt when I was playing. I had a lot of 15 to 20 foot putts that I did give a good go, but also winter greens and stuff like that does affect it. And the easy up and down still didn't make one of them, but at the end of the day it wasn't the end of the world. I think it didn't cost me anything in terms of shots dropped. So if we were to look at quickly the stats at the bottom, did hit 2 more fairways at Knighton than Sherborne, but you hit a lot of irons off the tees at Knighton, so take it with a pinch of salt. Like I said, these 3 stats here are okay, but they're never the be all and end all. Same amount of greens, so even though I did manage to find 2 more fairways, still missing a lot of greens. 7 greens around to miss is a lot of saving, especially when I think I was greens on 2 5s as well, so something that needs to be improved moving forward. And putts, 29 putts at night, and like I said, I know the overall number isn't the whole picture, but having 3 less putts, and I've shot, I think it was 4 less in the end, so it just shows you, if you improve your putting over a short period of time, you can make big differences to your scores. So let's break it down a little bit further than just a Tiger 5 or our trusty stat table. And like I said, these stats are just pretty basic, right? This is nothing compared to what Decade or Arcos can give you, but it's a nice start, isn't it? So yes, I did hit more fairways at night, and I'd expect to, because of the nature of the beast, right? The course is playing really short. We were on the winter mats, so a lot of irons off the tees, so taking it with a pinch of salt, I think a more true reflection of that will be Ashley Wood and High Post the next couple of weeks, where I'll have to hit a few more drivers, just because the course, although it's shorter, is a bit more wide open, so there'll be more birdie opportunities. Approach distance was obviously down as a result of the course being shorter compared to Sherborne. I think Sherborne was like 140, 150 average for myself. But interestingly enough, greens and reg didn't improve, and I can see a little bit of a correlation between the Sherborne stats and here. If you look at the approach distance and greens hit or miss, with a wedge in my hand, I think I've only missed 3 greens here and a couple of free greens at Sherborne, but that 150 to sort of 190 range, I seem to miss a lot of greens, and that's something I really need to improve. I don't think it's so much from a technical perspective, I think it's more from an aim perspective, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So then we move over to footage to hole. So this is distance to hole for greens hit, not overall. I averaged about 13 feet. Obviously, again, these aren't the most accurate distance to hole numbers. My stride is a yard, and I know it is from the good old days before Bushnells, but obviously foot is a little bit more precise than a yard, isn't it? So about 13 feet, give or take. Again, the greens are really small at night, and so you're never going to be too far away from the pin. But just because the distance to hole is quite short doesn't mean you're guaranteed to hole a lot of putts. 13 feet is in that makeable range, but there's, once you get outside 10 feet, especially on winter greens, it's a bit of a lottery. So front line, I was level 2s putting, nothing really impressive, a couple of 3 putts in there which damaged the score a little bit. But back 9, the putter turned up magically. I averaged 1.3 putts per green and reg. 7 under on the back 9 putting. I haven't putted that well in a very long time. It was nice to see the changes that I was making actually panning out and being really successful. So really happy with the way I putted. So, like I said, I'm happy with the way I putted, and I'm happy with the way I played overall around night. And it was a good fight back on the back nine after letting the front nine just get miles away from me. So, what trends are starting to emerge from these 2 rounds, and how can they help myself and you guys? So, I think the biggest trend here is big mistakes off tees lead to big numbers, and it's not so much for me a technique breakdown, it's the wrong club in my hands at the wrong times. And that's something that I think a lot of golfers tend to overlook. You think a bad shot or a breakdown in technique is because you're not very good technically. And sometimes it could be because you've got the wrong club in your hand. On that first hole at night, and it's, off the mats, it's maybe 300 yards. I know that I could just bomb driver up there pretty close to greens. I've done it loads of times before, even in the middle of summer from the back tee. But first hole of the day in a competition, is driver really the best play in the world when you can just nudge a 2-iron down the middle of the fairway or a 3-iron down there and just wedge it on? Sometimes it's about building your way into rounds. It's not, let's try and make a million birdies out there. Let's get the pars, or even for yourselves, net pars. Let's get it secure. And the best way to get it secure is get yourself in a decent position off the tee. So that's definitely something that comes with playing a lot more golf, and then heading into Ashley and high post is something that I'm going to be a lot more conscious of, because the swing is getting better. It's closer to where I want it now than it has been for a long time. And moving into approaches and hitting more greens, there's 2 sides to this coin, because I'm playing courses that have quite small greens. If I was playing around a more tournament style course that had massive greens, I think my greens and reg would go up, same as everyone's, right? So hitting into small narrow greens, if you're hitting a 5-iron from 190 like myself, and it's a 10-yard gap in terms of width, and the pin's slightly left or slightly right, you're going to miss more greens than you really think that you should. So there's a little bit of expectation management in there. But I'm averaging 130, 160 into greens on average throughout the course of the round, and I'm only hitting just over 50% of greens. Really, I'm only hitting 11 out of 18. There's definitely a shortcoming in even that middle range, right, from that 150 to that sort of 170 number. I'm not hitting the greens that I should be, and if I want to improve scoring wise, I need to be hitting more of those greens. So if I was to go into high post with those 2 thoughts in mind, and then trying to maintain the changes I've made to my putting, I know that I'm not going to have 7 under back 9 for putting very often. I'm not going to average 1.3 putts per green very often, but if I can consistently start to drop it below that 2 putts per green, that's going to be a huge difference over the course of a season. Like I said to you, I had 3 less putts at night in the Sherborne. I think I shot 4 less, and it's a big change to the scoring, and it's something that everyone can do, right? Whether it's eliminating 3 putts, I can still take 2 free putts off of my rounds from the Tiger 5. Those putting stats get even better, and I'm saving even more shots. So, as always, I will reiterate, focus on your putting, focus on reducing those mistakes off the tee. If you can just get the ball into play a little bit easier, especially this time of year when the course is playing shorter because you're on shorter tees and stuff, and eliminate those 3 putts, or maybe try and hole an extra putt inside 6 feet or 8 feet around. And you can just plug away at them things throughout the winter. And then obviously for myself, I think it's something that can apply to everyone working on those. For me, it's those yardages from 150 to sort of 190, but for yourselves, those scoring yardages with your wedges in your hand and moving into your 9-iron, 8-irons and stuff, you'll see a lot of success come summertime. This is a very slow and painful process, so stick with it, and I'll see you in the next video.